Hi and welcome back to the channel. So today's video is going to be one of our buyer's guide on the Mitsubishi Evo V and Evo VI. Okay, so I'm going to combine the Evo V and the Evo VI buyer's guide together because they're very similar cars. We'll show you the differences a little bit later, but basically Mitsubishi Evo V, they're probably from about 1996. This one here is a 96 R-Reg and it is a actual Evo V RS. So there is various different models with like all of the Evos, the GSR and the RS. So this particular car is my own car, it's Evo V RS, and I just wanted to show you around it and just tell you what to look out for when buying one. So, starting with the bodywork, obvious stuff is looking out for crash damage, I guess. So, as I say in most of these videos, is just have a good look around at the overall condition. You'll get a good gauge of what's you know, what stands out basically. If there's been any paintwork, if there's any corrosion. These have aluminium bonnets and aluminium wings, and they do suffer from corrosion. So have a good look at the lips inside of the wings, and also down at the bottom part of the wing where the seals bolt onto it as well. You can get some corrosion going on these wings, and these wings are very expensive to replace. So that's always something good to look out for. And also under the bonnet, just the front lip, sometimes the paint flakes off and you get a corroded bit of bodywork there. The rest of the car's steel, so it's general stuff really. Just check for dents and dings, check for rust, open the doors, look at inside of the doors where you know, where the bottom of the doors, they've got like little drain holes in the doors. These holes here can rust out quite badly, so it's always good to look at those front and rear. And also look behind the arch when you pop the rear door open. There's like a little metal rail behind the arch liner, on the door, and they can rust out if they are getting to that point. Obviously, the age of the car and the type of car they are, they do suffer from corrosion. We always go on about corrosion on the Evos, but basically this is something that will make or break a car really. If you know, it can look lovely and shiny on the outside, but if you buy something that's underneath that's rotten and corroded, then you're going to be into a big expense to get that repaired. But it doesn't mean it's the end of the world, because we're putting chassis legs in these cars and we're doing underbody restorations. It just means you're going to be in for a big spend. So if you're just buying the car, you want to try and get the best example possible. So check all the bodywork out, check out for, you know, dents and dings, panel gaps on the car, and really just have a good visual of it, and then you'll gauge whether you're into a spend on paintwork, and if you're into any sort of like repairs on the panels. So if you can't get the car up on a ramp, just have a good visual underneath. Just get on your hands and knees and good look under the boot floor, and you'll see either side of the boot spare wheel tub, there's two chassis legs, and they're the bits that corrode first. So just try and have a good visual underneath it. In an ideal world, you'll get it up on a ramp, and I'll get this car on a ramp in a little while and show you what to look out for. Another one, a good easy one, is just lift the boot lid up. Look underneath this bit here where the rear number plate lights are, because this panel here can rust out quite badly. And also, same again, there's like drain holes in the boot lid. This car's very clean and rust free, but there's like drain holes here, and also the channels where the water will run down in the boot. So just check all that out, make sure that's rust free. One thing to check before I move on to the engine is obviously just have a little look in the fuel filler cap. So pop that open, and just check around where the actual cap is. There's two screws there, and you sometimes find it really bubbles up around here, and it can corrode badly. And if you're into obviously a weld repair there, that's not ideal. But that is another commonplace and not something that everyone will check. So always pop the bonnet, have a good look under the engine bay. Obviously have the car running as well is a good technique, and just have a listen to the car while it's idling from cold, and then let it warm up and just see if there's any unusual noises from the engine. Sometimes they suffer from tappets, so you'll get like a sort of a tappety top end. It's not the end of the world, it's not a major expense, but it's just something to listen out for. Sometimes the lifters get a bit sticky and they go a bit rattly, so that's something to think about. Cost wise for that, you're probably into, I don't know, £300, something like that, to replace them, supply and fit them. Check cam belt history, that's always very important. That should be done every 5 years, 45,000 miles. And then generally check the service history of the car, make sure it's had all the fluids changed regularly as well. So yeah, corrosion again under the bonnet, strut tops, where the strut brace sits, have a look around there, the top mounts there, and then have a little look around the strut turrets, because they can corrode around there, both sides, and then along the front chassis legs in the engine bay as well. But apart from that, really, just check. A lot of these cars have been played around with and tuned as well. So look out for any modifications. If it's listed with some, great. If they're, you know, some cars have been potentially in the wrong hands and could be modified badly. So have a good look around, see what's going on there. Again, if you're not a mechanic or, you know, familiar with these type of things, then it's always good to look at these type of reviews online, or even pick up the phone. You're always welcome to pick up the phone to Auto Talk. Got any questions, you can always send us a link to the car and we can have a look over it online for you as well. So generally speaking, these engines are really good. They are pretty much bulletproof. Obviously you start modifying them, putting more strain through them, then they're going to potentially throw up some issues, but generally speaking, you don't get the common issues like head gaskets or, you know, potential engine failures, unless they have been messed around with. But they are an old engine now, so there's always some bad ones out there, but on the same note, there's some really, really nice stuff out there still as well. So yeah, just have a good look, good visual, make sure there's no leaks. They do suffer from rocker cover gaskets leaking. You may see some oil dripping down from the cam position sensor onto the manifold, so you could see that. But again, that's not the end of the world. It's just the age-related rubbers and seals that could be showing their signs of the age now. But yeah, generally speaking, just have a good look around, make sure nothing's untoward and the modifications look genuine and decent. So the interior of an Evo 5 or a 6, pretty basic. There's not really any options or any spec you can get apart from being a different model if it's a GSR or an RS. So this car being the RS, it has some really basic seats in it, which a lot of the RSs, they don't generally keep standard, because they're like well, they're not a supportive bucket seat like the Evo 6 GSR or Evo 5 GSR. So this particular car's got some Recaros in it. I've opted to change them out just to give you a better feel. They hug you in the seat a little bit better. But yeah, generally speaking, on the seats, you know, it's general wear and tear really is the thing to look out for. They are old cars, and some of them have got a few miles on them now, so you're going to expect a bit of bolster wear. You're going to expect to see some maybe wear and tear on the gear stick and the gator and the steering wheel. But as standard, these cars come with a Recaro seat and a Momo steering wheel. Something to remember is have a look at what potential modifications it's had or had removed from the car. So quite often we see these cars with like screw holes in the dash. You might see where it may have had some gauges on top of the above the steering wheel, or on the center console, or even actually on the steering wheel cowling, where people screw through the dash, which is a little bit unsightly. And if you've got to replace that bit of trim, especially if it's a dash, you could be into changing the whole dashboard just to get rid of those holes. So that's something to look out for. Audio, generally speaking, it's normally a single DIN basic head unit nowadays in these cars. Some people can fit like a double DIN in there. Other things to check is make sure everything's working really, all the knobs, make sure the aircon's working, and also most of these cars have AYC. This car doesn't, being the RS, but they have an AYC light on the dash. If the AYC fails, it will show up the AYC highlighted on the instrument panel. So basically make sure there is a light there. When you turn the ignition on, all the lights light up on the dash, and then when you fire the car up, that AYC light should go out. If it stays illuminated, then you could be into a pump failure and an expensive repair on that. Lastly, a common thing on the interior is the door cards. Again, this is an RS, so it hasn't actually got any material on there, but on the door card itself, they have like it's almost like a suede material front and rear, and they always come unstuck and they always sag and they always look a bit unsightly. So just make sure they look okay and they're not ripped or torn. And just have a good look at the roof lining. It is a light coloured roof lining, so sometimes they get marked and sometimes they get damaged. But it's just general condition of the inside really will give you a good idea of how it's been looked after. Some obvious things to check are the wheels, brakes and suspension. So wheels, a lot of these cars have aftermarket wheels on, or they've been changed, or just make sure the wheels are basically in good condition. We do see wheels that can be out of shape and can be cracked, which is going to be quite hard to spot on a sort of driveway if you're looking to buy a car, but you'll get a good feel basically when you drive the car if there's any vibration through the steering wheel. Tyres as well, you can always check the date on the tyre. There is a date stamp on there. Make sure they're in good condition. Get the wheel on a bit of lock and you can check the tread. Just make sure they're not perished or cracked. They may have good tread on them, but they can also be quite old. These are particularly quite old because these are my old track wheels, but you can see like little cracks in there because they are age related. But have a good look around all four wheels. It should be wearing evenly. If you find out that the tyre's quite bowled on the inside, it could be a sign of the tracking or the geometry being out, and these are quite sensitive to that, these cars. So yeah, get the wheel on full lock and make sure you check the whole width of the tyre. Brakes, so most of these Evo V VIs come with the Brembo brakes as standard. This car being an RS came with the old sliding calipers, so it didn't actually have the Brembos on it. So I've actually upgraded these brakes to the well, they say Mitsubishi on them, but they're actually like an AP 6-pot caliper on the front. Again, just check the condition of them. We refurbish a lot of these Brembo calipers due to age, really. When they get old, they can corrode internally. The sliders where the pads sit can sort of go misshaped because of the corrosion, bulging them out, and the pad can get stuck. So you can find that sometimes the pedal feel on these original Brembos can feel a little bit wooden, not very effective. So check the general condition of the calipers and the discs and pads. Obviously, you can measure the pad, measure the disc. They all have a minimum thickness, but with a good visual, you can see through most wheels. You can see if there's any pad life left on the pads, and also with the discs. Just check. When they're cold, just feel the lip, make sure there's not a big lip. If there is, that could mean the discs are quite thin and need replacing. The other thing I mentioned was suspension. Again, they have on these, they're just a normal black spring and strut setup. A lot of these cars now have got aftermarket suspension on them, so a good way of checking is obviously driving the car, see what it feels like. If it's a coilover type, they're going to be ride height adjustable. If you can have a look at the coilover, make sure they're not, like, again, corroded, because they can get seized up, and also we can see a lot of these aftermarket coilovers, if they're a cheaper brand as well, they can cause like knocking when driving. So go over some slow speed bumps, just check they're not knocking, and general condition of them. When you're in the bonnet, have a look at the top mount. If it's got like an aftermarket adjustable top mount, you can sometimes see the pirable on the top. Sometimes they have play in them, and they can again cause knocking. So coilovers are great, but they do need a bit of maintenance, and you just got to make sure they're not past their life expectancy. So that's it really for the outside of the car. I think we're going to take it back to the workshop, get underneath it, and I'll just show you the bits underside. As you can see, the car is now in the air, so if you come underneath it, I'll show you the common issues to look out for. So with any Evo, obviously the worry is the underside, the corrosion. This car has no factory underseal on it. It hasn't been undersealed, any aftermarket underseal on it. So you may see there is some little brown patches. That is just surface rust. This particular car is actually in very good condition, so it's okay to see a little bit of, patchy surface rust. Very, very common. Probably one of the main things you want to be concerned about is if the car has got a thick black underseal on it, because then it could be hiding some nasty things. But on the other side, it could just be protecting it. So look at the chassis legs. So either side of the spare wheel well, you've got these sections here, and they run all the way up to the fuel tank. So very common, 2 chassis legs either side. Keep an eye out for them. Make sure they're not blistering. They sometimes bubble from the inside out. And also where the rear subframe mounts, you've got some mounting points up here, normally just above the rear drive shaft. Around this section here can get very corroded and also blister from the inside out. So they're the main points of concern. If that is the case, like I said earlier, it's not the end of the world. We are constantly putting chassis legs in cars. We've actually got one next to us, an Evo 8 MR, where we're cutting out the chassis legs on that. So it's a known thing now with these cars. So like I say, don't let it completely put you off, but you'll have to allow for that process, which is expensive, circa £8,000, I think, to do that job. So on the right hand side of the car, you've got the fuel filler neck, which is this section here. Again, prone to corrosion, can blister, can leak fuel, so make sure that's not completely rotten. Again, it's all replaceable, so it's not the end of the world, it's not structural. And fuel tank, as you can see, this fuel tank actually looks quite clean because it has been restored. Even if your car is very clean, low corrosion, the other issue with cars that sit around and do very low mileage is that the fuel tanks can corrode from the inside if left in storage with no fuel in. So I had that problem with this car here. Yeah, restored for ages. didn't have any fuel in it before I bought the car. When we went to fire it up, it had a misfire. Bit of diagnosis work and found out that the fuel tank inside was rusty. Sucked all the rust up, clogged the injectors, and basically had to have a full clean out of the fuel tank, restored, fuel lines cleaned, new injectors. So there's a lot of work. So basically, it's very important to make sure if your car is at low mileage, just check the fuel tank as well. Sills and jacking points, try and make sure these are all straight. A lot of people can jack these cars up if they haven't got a ramp like this. These are the jacking points, but they are very weak, and especially if the car's a little bit corroded, you'll find that they can crumble and get squashed, and then that can split the seams. Not very good, and it's very hard to repair that, so you don't want to be putting in new jacking points or sills. So something to look out for. The rest of the underside is general, really. Just keep an eye out. Another common area of corrosion on the front is there's a couple of light holes in the front here. These are supposed to be there, but just have a good feel and good check that they haven't got thin or worse, got bigger. That is quite a common one. So under the engine, under the transmission, usual stuff. Just look out for any oil leaks, anything that could be dripping from, you know, gearbox, transfer box, or engine. Normally, you'll probably see it on the floor if you like I said earlier, run the car up, move it back and just have a look on the floor, make sure nothing's literally dripping out, but generally speaking it obviously should be dry. Apart from that, the other section on the front of the car is the radiator support mount. So this is that section here, and these can corrode out badly because they're obviously quite exposed to the elements. Just make sure this complete section is not completely rotten, because that is a welded in section, and it's not, it is a replaceable panel, but you have to basically drill spot welds out, weld it back in. So that's quite important. And then again on the front of the car, either side of the engine, you've got chassis legs. These don't generally corrode anything like the rear ones, but it's something important to look at, because if the car's had a front end collision, you could find creases in the chassis legs or this front section here. So that is something to look out for. Other than that, really just general stuff. Check the exhaust system, check for exhaust blows, and any sort of creasing on the body shell underneath in case it's gone over something, because any underside work is quite time consuming and quite expensive. So I think that's it for the underside. The only other thing on normal GSR Evos is the AYC pump. We mentioned it earlier. You could have a look at the AYC pump on the back of the car. They're normally all quite rusty. It doesn't mean that's a problem, but it's more a case of if the pump's failed, you'll tell by looking inside the car and turning the ignition on and off. So that's it for the underside. Right, here we are. Let's take this Evo out for a little drive and talk through what to look out for, listen out for, and experience on your road test. Like I said earlier, get the car up to temperature, listen to it idle, and then when you get out on the road, the car should be up to temperature and you'll be able to give it a little drive, and then hopefully, as time goes on, the transmission will warm up, the gearbox, you know, will loosen up. These things can feel quite mechanical, especially if you're not used to such a vehicle. So this car in particular, like I've mentioned, is the RS. So it has no AYC, it has an RS rear diff. This particular car has a trick diff in the transfer box as well. So this is very mechanical. You'll hear a lot of noises from it, especially on full lock. It sort of almost skips a wheel. So that is normal, but as long as you know what the car has got to start with, then you shouldn't have any surprises. So transmission to start with, just go through all the gears, go up and down the gearbox, and it's also good to change gear at high RPM as well, because one thing these cars do, or we do see in the workshop, is synchros going. And you can't always tell if you're just driving it at slow speed. So like give it a good few pulls. You don't have to, you know, drive it crazy. Just get the rev range up 5-6 grand and change gear like quite spiritedly, and see if the synchros can keep up with your gear change. And then listen out for the usual stuff like bearing noise and diff whines, transmission noises. Hopefully you can hear me okay, but this car's got R888 tyres on it, so they're very noisy. You get a lot of road noise from the tyres, so it's quite hard to hear anything over that. That and the exhaust noise. It's always quite a loud car. So we're just going to go on some nice country B roads and give it a few pulls. and just see what it's like. Make sure it performs correctly, make sure it doesn't misfire, make sure it goes all the way through the rev range cleanly. Should be able to pull through the gears and not have any dramas. Sometimes these cars can overboost, and that will feel like you're hitting a brick wall when you're going through the power range. It will sort of always hit a cut, feel like it's going to throw you through the windscreen. That sort of feeling, that's like a boost cut. Make sure there's no hesitations. They can blow spark out, quite a common thing. If the plugs aren't gapped, or if the plugs are poor quality, you might get that hesitation. But you'll get a good idea of it relatively quickly, I'd like to say, just by giving it a little spirited drive. And it should also give you put a good smile on your face, because these are so much fun, these cars. I'd highly recommend buying one if you're in the market for one. Whatever Evo you're in the market for, they're all fantastic. There's definitely a sweet spot in my heart for an Evo 5, Evo 6, because they're just like that old school sort of retro feel and look before it got a little bit more refined with the 789. But again, they're all fantastic cars. But these, for me, they do certainly tick a lot of boxes. Suspension as well, I mentioned about the coilovers or standard dampers. Give it a good shake down on some country roads if you can get to them. Just make sure there's no nasty knocks and bangs, and also feel the geometry. Get on a nice smooth bit of road, take your hands loosely off the wheel, and make sure the car actually doesn't pull you in one direction or the other. It should feel quite stable, quite straight. Again, they're very sensitive on wheel alignment and geometry, so if it does slightly pull you one way or the other, it could be down to tyres, could be down to air, tyre pressures, could be down to the wheel alignment. So again, it's probably something minor, but you also want to make sure it's nothing serious, like something bent or out of line. So yeah, once you've done a bit of a drive, it's always good to pull over once the car's like really warm and just check under the bonnet again, check for any leaks, any sort of fluids anywhere. You never know, do you? Sometimes these cars can be sat still for a little while, and if they've been on sale for a little while, they might not have been moved, might not have been driven, so it's good to have a good look around it. Poke your head underneath the front end of the car, look underneath the engine and gearbox for any leaks. If you're fortunate enough to have access to a ramp, then obviously get it on a ramp and have a look that way. But yeah, you can sort of lean the car into some corners and just make sure there's no bearing noises. It's quite good to do that, and it should, if there is a problem or with the wheel bearings or transmission, you might hear that noise transmit from one side to the other, or not change at all if it's nothing related to the wheel bearing sort of side of things. Generally speaking, these cars are very good. If they're looked after, well maintained, I don't want to say they're bulletproof, but we very rarely see a stock car have a problem. It's more down to the maintenance side of things. They have a problem, whether it's like it's missed its cam belt interval, or it's been sat for so long and then someone fires it up and it throws the cam belt off it, or the balance shaft snaps, balance shaft belt snaps, and it can take the cam belt with it. So all those things to think about, but there's the sort of type of things you can check through the paperwork and make sure it's been well maintained. And if there's no history of all that, then obviously you're taking a bit of a gamble, but the best thing to do is get the car booked in for an inspection, cam belt, do all the full fluids, and then you've got a good starting point of where you're gonna, your new ownership's gonna take off. So that's something I always do if I buy an unknown vehicle or something from auction, or if it's from from Japan or something like that. It's always good to just wipe the slate clean, get it into the UK, do the basic stuff. So a good package that we offer if you are thinking about buying a car and you the history is a little bit patchy is full fluid service, cam belt, balance shaft belt, auxiliary belt, and then potentially have a look underside, see if it's got any underside protection, and give it a good clean up and a wax. And we do that packages for a lot of new customers, a lot of new cars, and it's pretty cost effective if you get it all done in one go, and then you're set, ready for your new ownership of the car. I love driving this car. I don't get out much, so when I do, it's nice to have a good clean day, sun shining, and making these videos is a good excuse to drive them. Yeah, and I honestly can say I don't think you'll be disappointed if you buy an Evo. It should be everything it lives up to. You know, it's an old car, it's got that mechanical steering, it's got that, you know, sort of aggressive feel to it. It's so sharp and responsive. So that concludes the video. What I've just mentioned in this video relates to the Evo 5 and the Evo 6. So yeah, I mean, they're all very similar, the 5 and 6. So any questions, feel free to, you know, give us a call, drop a comment below, and I'll try and help you out. We see a lot of these cars. I mean, I've been around these cars for over 25 years. So we have a vast knowledge from myself and from the team. We can always give you a helping hand. And if you want your car inspected, serviced or maintained, then obviously feel free, give us a call, we can give you some prices and we'll get you booked in. So please like, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.